Okay, so no diving. Well, let's see. People who are not members, or we have visitors tonight. Everybody's a member, or I'm trying to figure out. I don't see some of your faces too often, so. Okay. You want to tell us, remind us who you are? Yes. Oh, at the Moody Gardens. I probably saw you guys there. Yeah, we were down there with a booth. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome. I'm sure our speaker is responsible for filling the room up like this. Well, let's see. Do we have any officer reports? We don't have treasurer or no. It's just me up here. I could tell you about TGCC. It's okay. Okay, well, let's talk about the HUF because some fun things have been going on there, and I can't possibly remember all of them. But the first thing I'll say is I burned almost an entire week of time last week getting the little webpage up and running. So I'd really appreciate it if you folks would go have a look. The store is actually working. You can buy a video on demand ticket to watch the films that are loaded out from the last 3 HUFs. All that stuff is there, the trailers, and as soon as this edition is done, on the Monday afterwards, we'll open sales for the video on demand for this one as well. So that's something it's only taken us a year to get that done, but it was a lot of fun. Some more news on the HUF, actually. 3 out-of-town filmmakers, and this is not counting Jennifer from Texas A&M, who said she's coming. We don't consider her out of town, but 3 are coming from elsewhere. So a couple of students who have a film in the thing, and then another guy who's a faculty professor somewhere is going to come as well, and so he'll be there on the Saturday night for the meet the filmmakers, along with your favorite Texas people who have films in the show, and you get to meet them as well. And let's see, do you want to, Betsy, give a
to get you guys to watch us on TV on Thursday?
Can't hear you.
Houston Live Show.
I wasn't going to mention that, but
The Houston Live Show contacted us and wanting to interview us about the HUF. So we're going to be on their program, which is at 1 o'clock on Thursday, Channel 2. Okay, so set your DVR.
let's hope it's not one of those muckraking interviews like, well, we've heard that there's actually a question about where the cash is going on this this operation.
Yeah, so the email blast from Match comes out tomorrow. So hopefully that and our appearance on Houston Live will, promote some ticket sales.
Want to talk about the students, the student tickets, because that's something new this year.
So Sorrel, thank you so much, Sorrel, has donated money for us to invite students for free tickets. And they're coming, right now we have 26 Texas A&M Galveston students coming on Sunday, and they're in marine biology and maritime sciences, environmental sciences, these kinds of things. And Russell contacted some of the other film schools in the area to alert them, so we'll see if they take advantage of these free tickets. If they even
first time they all called me. I said, let them know I did. Lady from Rice called me back and said, thank you.
So anyway, Right.
Well, the only way we got this done, we ran into this guy at this dive into the Gulf meeting at Moody Gardens. That's okay, I've got one. And so he was like, I don't know, a senior or a dive master and student, and he went, free tickets? Oh yeah, I got a bunch of people. So he came back with a list of all these folks. So you need to don't go to the departmental secretary, I think is what we've learned. So let's see, what else? The raffle is just mind-boggling, actually, what the prizes that we have this year. There's 2 big lights from Big Blue that Dennis was able to get out of them. We know he pushed his limit because the lady that was going to ship it called back and said, my boss wants to know what the heck I'm doing giving these 2 big lights away to to some event. Like, bingo, we hit the until they squeal, you haven't pushed enough. So we've got that. We've got one from Kraken. We've got travel. Blue Water sent, so we've got everything. We've got a focus light from Blue Water, a mid-level light from Kraken, and 2 big honkers from Big Blue. So if you need a light, you definitely should come and buy some raffle tickets. And just a load of stuff. So we're outperforming on that side of it. So you want to mention any of the other items there to? Yeah, hang on.
One at Antelope and the other one to either Puerto Galera or Dumaguete. And we've got a 3-day trip on the Fling. So those are the trips that we've got this year.
The Antelope was donated by Buceo Antelope Beach and Dive Resort, and the other one is the Atlantis Group. So yeah, and then of course the Fling is Andy. Yeah, Henry. So
the raffle tickets you can only buy them down there at the event, or?
correct.
Okay.
Correct, and you got to be present to win.
And they're 3 for $5.
That's right.
And the other thing that's new this year, so we've got, I mean, we had a lot of items that are, maybe smaller. And so we're going to have something kind of like a door prize. This is new this year. Everybody that buys any tickets at all, they're going to give them a ticket of a different color, just one. And everybody that buys any kind of tickets gets one of those. And that goes into a bucket that's just for the door prizes. And so these are smaller things. So we want, people to feel like winners. Okay. Yes.
We can always use extra people to come and volunteer. If you want to come and volunteer, pack raffle stuff, and we've got a lot of stuff unpacked. Bring in from.
Can't hear a thing out here.
She keeps giving up her microphone and then she keeps talking again. So
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, we've got a lot of odd jobs that can be done, and so the volunteers arrive at 1 o'clock on Saturday and at 1:30 on Sunday, and you must arrive and come through the door at the loading dock on Francis Street. You cannot come in the main door of the theater. The lobbies will be locked, and all volunteers are required to come in the back door at the loading dock.
and have tickets.
And everybody has to have a ticket.
So let's say a little bit more about it. Just for people who are online and people here, we're going to try to do something to make people aware. I don't know exactly how we can do this. Just email out to people that have bought tickets possibly. The traffic situation is really bad down there. Of course, this will be on Saturday and Sunday, so it's not maybe such a concern. But Holman Street, which is the street that the theater is actually on, and separates the theater from the parking garage where we always park, is completely torn up and you can't drive on it at all. So you can't get into the parking garage from Holman Street anymore. Not in the near future anyway. So you have to come down Travis instead and take a right into the parking garage from Travis. And there's some construction, orange and white barrels set up there, but they have a little gap where you can turn into the parking garage entry there. And we recommend you park there, even though it's a paid facility. There's a free one that's a few blocks away, but I don't recommend anyone walking back after the performances a couple of blocks in that. It's a little bit, it's an urban area. Down Travis, if you're coming from the Southwest Freeway, you get off on Travis and take a right in just before you get to Holman. There's an entry there. Right. It looks like we'll still be able to maybe carry our stuff. You can kind of go out of the garage on Holman, walk out of it with your stuff, and then down to Main Street, and then across there, and then that's where the theater is. So
Right, but anyone who is a volunteer, like I
Yeah,
said,
you have to go around
you have
the-
to enter on Francis Street.
Yeah.
And if you're bringing in supplies as a volunteer, which many of us are bringing in raffle stuff and banners and what have you, tables, we will pull into the loading dock on Francis Street, unload our stuff at the door. There'll be someone standing at the door to let you in. It has to stay closed, but we'll have a door monitor there who will open the door for you, let you bring the stuff in, and then pull your car out and go park.
And they will remind you to be quiet while you're backstage, because this is a central area behind the 4 performance areas. So all of those halls, even though it looks like there's nothing going on, there's stage doors right there. So if you're cutting up like some of us were the first time we were there, they were trying to do Shakespeare out there, and Dennis is, making noise. So, we need to be very quiet in those backstage areas. Remember that. So.
But, once you unload your car and bring your stuff up to the loading dock door and place it inside, go immediately and pull your car out and park it so that other people can pull in to unload their stuff. Because we have a lot of people kind of waiting in line right at 1 o'clock wanting to unload, right? And only 1 or 2 cars can fit in there at a time.
Yeah, so get your stuff up inside the door where it's safe, and then pull your car around the park. And then, of course, picking the stuff up on Sunday afternoon is Sunday evening is a little bit better in some ways. Like some of you, if you're what you brought is done after the intermission on Sunday, then you can take it back out of the loading dock. If it's moving over into the gallery for the continued sales and stuff like that, then it'll be moved over there, and you'll have to do your loading from the gallery like we've done in the past. And there's some ways of doing that. Side doors, there's some places that go out where you can pull the car in on Travis Street there. There's a little, anyway, the traffic shouldn't be too bad. We should be able to do that okay. So let's see, what am I leaving out? Oh, as last year, the idea was really good that Dennis had to do a workshop soon after the HUF and use the crowd that came to the HUF to advertise it. And so we're doing that again this year. This year's going to be, it's a little later. It's another month or so away. It's on June 1st. Yeah. Yeah. And it'll be on lighting, everything about lighting. So David's going to do the first part on strobe lighting, and then I'm going to talk about video lighting. So I think everybody here probably knows about that, but it's nice to come early to the HUF because it's a social hour. The doors open at 2. People can come in, buy their raffle tickets, buy all the swag, we've got hats and cups we're still trying to sell. So sell hard on the coffee cups, okay? They've been sitting around for 3 years now, so we need to move those cups out. somebody told me I could fill them up with Hershey's Kisses and that they would go like that, you know, so we may try that. We don't sell them this year, so, but it's nice to meet people and you know, so if you want to come and just be there early to anything that needs to be done and socialize a little bit, that's great. We try to start herding people in there. Mike Gruder has a cowbell that he brings. We feel like that's appropriate, you know, for this group. None of those, you know, chimes that are so refined, you know, this is beat the cowbell to get the herd in there. And we'll try to start doing that about 1/4 till, because it takes time for everybody to get in and get seated. And we need to start the show on time because it's we're time challenged as usual, but this year even a little bit more. The films were so good, we had to turn away some that we just could not believe we were having to turn away because of programmatic considerations. We don't like to show more than one film by an author, so but we do it in some cases when they're that good. But this year we're so good that I don't think we have anybody showing 2 films this year, even the top dogs. So that's 2. Okay, anything else? Any other comments or questions or?
I have a question.
Yes,
I have bought, excuse me, I have bought my ticket, but I don't have anything in hand. Do I need to print it out to get in?
it's Tammy asking, she's bought her ticket, but does she need to print it? Sorry?
Did you do will call?
Are you trying to pick it up, Tammy, at will call, or did you just get an email back, or?
I just got an email back and I thought I would pick it up at will call, but if you have to have a ticket to get in, do I need to print it out?
Will call.
Yeah, you can,
Tammy, you can either show them the ticket on your cell phone, because there's a QR code that is associated with each ticket, or you can
Okay.
just print it out and bring it.
yeah,
Okay.
and the will call window is open and it's on the outside. It's outside the door. So if you have to go to will call, it'll be there.
You need to contact them. I did.
Call them and say, hey, you didn't send me my ticket?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it says I paid for it, but it doesn't, they haven't sent it to you.
When I did mine, there was a place down there that printed it out, so I printed it out then.
Mhm.
Now, I got an email yesterday, I think, where it told me it's got in different letter colors. Down below, you'll be able to print out your tickets, look for this language. Well, it's not in that that email. It shows what I bought. You know, it's Saturday night, Sunday, the banquet.
That's what mine.
And,
Yeah.
Yes.
but there's no QR code. Well, when I printed out the QR code, the printer across the middle, there's a blurry line. So I don't know whether it will read or not.
Nice technology. So.
You're on the sales summary. I saw that you had bought a ticket and you're on the sales summary.
Well, I haven't
You're
got
on
a
it.
QR code from it.
Well, why don't you send them an email saying I didn't receive a return? I mean, it could have gone into spam for one thing, so.
Well,
Yeah.
you can choose that option.
That came up as an option, and I printed it out, but then when I went back and tried to download it, it wasn't there. Because that was off the website.
Yeah, I would shoot them an email I wouldn't try to call them. I would shoot them an email.
I would check with them about that, but you're definitely on the sales summary, so they'll, you know.
So if you haven't done it, look. You all should have gotten a survey about attending the workshop. And we'll probably be sending one of those out again because not many people answered to that. And as it gets closer, we'll try to send another one out to remind people, but it's June 1st. It'll be here and it'll go for a couple of hours. We've got another workshop planned. Not sure when they've set it for. This really tells you what a bunch of nerds we are. This is going to be a 3-hour workshop. It's on fish identification. So I expect to see you all there. Wide awake. It should be very good. So we'll have to hold that workshop a little bit earlier. I think David got it for 12:30 on the Saturday, but it's sometime in the fall. You'll plenty of time.
That's different than Google Lens.
Huh?
That's a different method than Google Lens.
Yeah, it's this woman teaches the course, and she's should be quite good. She does it fairly often. The Philippines trip is pretty much wound up now. It's full still. Somebody could still drop out. So if you want to be on a waiting list, let us know. There's another trip being proposed. It's going to be a very short fuse, I think, because it's Jim and Debbie Menza usually have been doing a Bonaire trip with a group for quite some time. They're not doing it this year. I think they have other commitments. And Trish Ross has volunteered to pick that up and try to organize that. It still hasn't gone by the board yet. I'm sure it will make it. She's got 4 or 5 people that are interested. And so it's looks like a pretty good deal. Just a word of caution, there's, the coral bleaching in the Caribbean is reported to be bad by some, others say it's not. So I don't know what the real situation is, but it's something to be aware of, that there may not be the Bonaire you remember, but it's still going to be nice, clear blue water and pretty diving. So have a look at that when it gets approved. Okay. I could go on like this forever, but we have a speaker tonight. So, and not that HUPS ever does anything sort of last minute or in unorganized fashion, but can I tell this story, Ken? No. It's such a good story, though. I'm sitting there enjoying life on Sunday, and Ken says, "Am I supposed to be speaking on Monday?" And so it's totally our fault. We were using the wrong email address, and so it's a good lesson. If you're organizing speakers, it's a good idea to get positive affirmation out of them, that they got the information and they're going to speak, because he had not been aware that his talk had been scheduled for tonight. So we're really in debt. I told him, "Hey, Ken, you can give it off the cuff, We know he's too type A for that. So we're really pleased. And there's a great biography Dennis wrote up, and it's in the newsletter, and I won't try to repeat it, but a man who truly needs no introduction. The only thing really new I know of is that you retired, which, and so you're not Island Dreams Ken anymore. You're just plain Ken. So I hear there's good movies for spots for people that, have this name. So absolutely. And it's on composition. That's all.
Talking to you all today, so no worries at all. I am Ken Knezick, for those who don't have met. Thank you all for coming today. And the program that had been
No
discussed
sound.
was on composition and underwater photography. And I couldn't come to do the March meeting because I had eye surgery, cataract surgery that day. Have any of you had this thing? The lens replacement? Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. I ended up with 20/20 in both eyes, and it was like instantaneous. Really a brilliant thing. If they could do the same thing for hearing, our lives would be perfect, huh? Stick that on for me. Just put it right there, please. But this is a topic that I think is really important to us. Now just go to slideshow. Yeah, slideshow. From the beginning on the very left, there you go. That ought to do the trick for us. How about that? And if you can get that thing to go away, maybe it will all by itself. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. I was thinking about this in the last day or two. Do you think that photography is a science just a skill, or is it an art? What do you think? Probably all of those, exactly all. It started out as chemistry, right? It was a miraculous chemistry. So this was a very precise little science that had to take place. If you look at the original pictures, they were very static things, right? They were just capturing a brief piece of history. Maybe it was, some famous people there, or an Indian chief, brilliant little portraits, but very static kind of things. Then it became a skill for all of us. How many of you shot film in the good old days? Many of us, it really had to be a skill back then, because you didn't see your results until 3 weeks after you pushed the little button. So that was a remarkable skill to acquire and learn how to do that. But if you stop at skill, to me, you're losing the most exciting and fun part of this whole experience, which is the art. And that's where composition, negative space, really composing a photograph, not just pushing the button. My wife told me, one of her photographers who comes to her dragon boating things, he said, I just posted 801 pictures. Oh, well, how very nice. I'd like to see the best 5 of those, right? I spent a little time on that. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And these days, with Photoshop and all the tools we have, the post-production is equally as important as the initial picture. Of course, now I guess you can just go to artificial intelligence and say, I'd like to see a picture of a mermaid having sex with a whale shark in Palau, and it would just pop it right out for you, right? But that's false. We are trying to create reality. I'm sticking with reality myself. I was really down on artificial intelligence until I saw Topaz AI, which, there are tools and things that were artificial intelligence is helpful to us. But I'm a big fan of reality. So let's sit down here and see if we can share a little information and help you improve your photography. And what do you think? Page down. I need an arrow that's going to advance the slide.
Only show him. I'm trying to.
Was that artificial intelligence talking back to us? Oh, so you got a right, left arrow. There we go. What button did you push? Just enter? Okay. I'm not going to read these things to you. We're going to go relatively quickly, but it really is not about the camera. It goes well beyond that. Digital is certainly a fabulous tool for us. So we're going to talk about composition, negative space, how to add quality to your photographs, perhaps even how to tell a story. And once you apply the concepts that we discussed this evening, your pictures are going to look pretty much like this. Okay, or maybe like this. It's not about the camera. This is Ernie Brooks, who's passed away now. He was famous for saying this. It's not about the camera. It's about the artistry, how you use the camera. And anytime someone would come up to me and ask, well, what camera should I buy? I need this and this. And I bring them over to Ernie, and Ernie would say, it's not about the camera. And they'd say, yes, but what camera should I buy? Let's go beyond that and see what we can do to really make artistic pictures, preferably with the front of the fish in the front of the photograph, right? You don't post your 800 pictures of the tails of the animal. Stick with the good shots. Okay, it's not about the camera, so maybe it's about the software. And to some degree, it is these days, right? Photoshop, a fabulous tool that we didn't have access to. When we were shooting slides, we were composing the picture in the slide, end of story, right? Before scanners, before anything. Now with digital, you're almost shooting for the crop. You want to be sure you have everything in the image that you can then alter it to some degree. And I mentioned this Topaz. How many of you are using it? It is truly a brilliant tool for improving the quality of your photographs. It can take an older camera that I was still shooting a D7200 in a housing. This camera is 10 years old, but with the upgrading in the software that something like this Topaz does, you can make exquisite photographs with that. But the bottom line is you have to be there in the water making the pictures. This is me actually down in Sea of Cortez shooting up at the boiler, the beautiful place where the manta rays come to play with you. Whale sharks and blue water. It's a lucky day. Doesn't matter how much your camera system costs, it's what you do with it. Learn what your camera does best and focus on those things. Learn what it is not good at and don't attempt to do that. Then use your tools to make the best possible images. And as I say, go beyond just pushing the button and try to look at the more creative sides of photography. I put this in any presentation. I used to do these shows around the country, and you must be a really solid scuba diver before you play with cameras. If not, you can really hurt yourself or somebody else. And this is my famous picture of Lorenz Metter, the guy who founded Wakatobi, and his young daughter, who's now a college student these days and a professional model. Okay. Effective composition can help you to create impact, energy, direct the viewer's eye to what you want them to see, create a mood, maybe even tell a story. Okay, really the basics. Avoid placing your primary subject smack in the middle. I have noticed anytime I hand my camera to someone else and ask them to take a picture of me and my wife in beautiful Hawaii with a volcano erupting behind us, they cut off a piece of our body, they cut off our legs, they do what? They just put the head of the people right in the middle and that's it, right? That's all they're seeing. They're not understanding any aspect of composition. So you really want to think about this. Where do you put your subject in the image? Underwater photography, critical getting to eye level or below, shooting up. You can make a tiny animal look great and powerful and strong by shooting up. If you shoot down on them, you're getting nothing most of the time. You know, there's exceptions to all the rules, but I'd say 98% of the time, shooting down is not going to help you. Leave space in the shot. We are doing still photography, but we want to show motion, give the feeling of motion. So you have to use space in front of your subject. If it's a fish, fish swim, they move. So you can crop where the tail in the back is just in the frame. You don't want to cut off any pieces of the animal or, you know, your subject, but leave room that you have imparting the feeling of motion to your photograph. A few scientific aspects, I'm not going to go into this, but this golden ratio that divides things really into thirds. Look where they put the sun in this picture, not smack in the middle. And the other little detail, if you're going to show me a picture of the ocean, I don't want to see it going this way or any other way, but a good solid horizon line, okay? So think about that. Horizon, when you have a horizon in a picture, that's the first aspect of your composition you want to think about. Okay, you've heard of the rule of thirds, right? This is a simple tool. Read about it. I'm not going to let you go through all of this stuff. Do a little bit of study on it, but the bottom line is where the stars are where the points of interest should be in your photograph. So how does that translate to underwater photography? Look where the eye of the octopus is. Look where the rest of the head goes, right? It's covering two of those powerful areas in the image. Look at our little Bergabunty here, right? He's facing down. The eye is right in the spot where you want him. Eye contact, upward angle, motion in the picture. There's space in front of the fish that it looks like it's swimming to you. And these little buggers, if you know they never stop in one place. So you make 50 shots to get one like this, but that's the fun of what we're doing. Again, look where the eye is in the picture. Look where the tail is. This is what we're shooting for. Look at the feeling of motion that this picture gives you. This sea snake is hitting all the corners of the image, right? Again, you get the idea here. Use angles to create energy. You see people who are shooting for a fish guidebook, they may show you, here's the flat fish and it's stuck in the frame and it's sideways and this is what a fish looks like. Great. That's not artistic photography. That's something different. So we're going to use angles to try to impart, again, the motion, the feeling. Look at the angle. This animal is coming towards you, right? It's almost moving towards you. Certainly your eye is directed to the animal's eye, yes? The lines and the angles in here are helping you to put the creature where you need it to be. If you got 1, 2 is even better. Diagonals. This is flat and the tail is cut off. This is more what we're looking for. What did I move? Did I ask the fish to move? I moved the photographer and the camera to get into a better position to make a better photograph. This is composition. This is the artistry of what we're trying to accomplish. Angles, shooting upward whenever possible. Eye contact, right? We have people, most of your friends who are not divers, you can show them the crappiest picture in the world and they say, wow, that's amazing. You should make a book, right? Because they don't quite know what they're looking at. We do. We're taking them to a wonderful place that most people never get to experience. It's glorious to be in the ocean. That's why all of us are here. If you're making pictures, this is what you're trying to share. So this eye contact becomes just a really critical aspect of the picture. Because we are humans, if you look someone in the eye, you're making contact with them. Here we are looking in the eye of the animals. And I find a really interesting thing. If you shoot a picture that has 50 fish in it, every one of them is looking at you because you're a potential threat, right? They're looking at you. So this is what we are trying to share. I think I put both of these in here. Look at the difference between these two pictures. That's a good picture. You'd be happy to have it, right? Look at the difference. You really have a connection with the creature. Eye contact. Eye contact. Face to face. Face to face. Eye contact with a beautiful manta ray, blue water, a little highlight with the sun above. Angles. Depth of field, point of focus. You cannot always have the entire image in focus. So what's the most critical thing to be in focus? The eye, the head of the animal, right? If the tail is in focus and the eye is out, it doesn't matter what else you did. It's not going to be a good image. So look, the background here fades away. That's great. We want the most important part of the picture to be in focus. You get a nice soft, we call it bokeh, B-O-K-E-H. The background kind of fades out of focus. It really helps you to get a better understanding of the foreground and the primary subject. And look, every fish in here is looking at the camera wondering, what the heck is that? Eye contact. Okay, this whole aspect of shooting up, I've been the judge for the photo contest for a long time, and that's still the thing that disturbs me the most, is people shooting down on a subject when all they needed to do was settle a little bit, move themselves, move the body, get down to eye level, get below eye level. It also, in addition to adding prominence to your subject, it adds light to the background. When you shoot down in the ocean, you're shooting into darkness. When you shoot up, you're shooting into the sun and light. You get a much more pleasing background. If people ask you every time, was that taken on a night dive? You're not doing it right, right? If it's a daytime photography, make that show. So look at this. Look at the black background, right? It's a pretty little fishy. I like it. It's a good picture. Same, it's a pretty fishy, but it's against black. Now we're starting to open up our aperture a little bit to get some blue into the picture. This is what I'm shooting for. This is what I am striving for, to get a blue background. This is Little Cayman, actually on a HUPS trip down 110 feet, shooting straight up. I was looking for something colorful to be in the foreground, something that would contrast nicely with the blue of the ocean. Put a little sunball in there, and to me, that makes a pleasing composition. Blue water, take people into the ocean to show them what it looks like when you are diving. This is another one, down, shooting straight up and luckily waiting for the divers to come overhead. So how do you get this blue water in the picture? We call it ambient light, the light of the sun. This is, you can't create it with the flash. Your strobe is not going to create blue water, right? The strobe only highlights the nearest part of the animal. This is shot with a wide angle lens. I'm probably, fortunately, 2 or 3 feet from this manta ray, right below, shooting up. You can see that the flash has lit the belly, right? Without a flash, it would be dark because it's the underside of the animal. It doesn't look like flash, right? You don't know it's flash because I've balanced that successfully, but it is the aperture and shutter speed setting that enables me to get blue water. So if this is the kind of image I'm trying to do, the first things I'm going to do are set shutter speed and aperture. I'm shooting in full manual, right? One way or another. You want to have control of these aspects. And I'll just start at f8, f11. These are good numbers, easy apertures, right? Good medium, good depth of field. And I usually shoot about a 200th of a second, maybe 250, because I want to stop motion. I'd say, 165 at the slowest I would shoot, because motion blur is a critical thing. And really, once I have my shutter speed defined for myself, if it's 200th of a second, then I'm just adjusting the aperture a little bit in and out to get the blue water that I want, to balance for the blue water. And then my strobes, most of the time, I shoot 1 or 2 strobes. You can, depends on where you place them. Both are successful techniques. I shoot them at half power with a diffuser, which takes off another stop. So I'm not throwing a lot of light at it. I don't want you to see the strobe. I just want the strobe to create the color. This is the result when you get your little balancing act to work. So how do we put motion in still photography? You can almost feel the diver. That's actually Dennis Davenport swimming into the frame. You see this grouper about to move up out of the sponge where he'd been hiding out. Motion, look at these fish are all moving towards us. So I've left room in front of their faces. If I have to cut something off, it's in the back. It's some other, secondary part of the subject. But in the front, I want space. I want room for them to move. Motion here was imparted by turning the camera to get an angle into the picture. These fish are moving. There are thousands of them. And you just have a little bit of color, the strobe highlighted, the ones closest to the camera. You really feel that you're swimming in a school of fusiliers. Motion. He's kicking, he's moving to you, he's moving forward. You can even let an animal that doesn't go very fast, and these are good to practice on, right? If they don't run too fast, you can really work on composition. But I left room in the front. I use my angle. I put myself in a place where the animal is swimming or moving toward me. That's what I'm looking for. Motion, angle, shooting up, blue water. These are the things I want to put together when composing a picture that tells a story. I remember exactly the moment I was on the reef in a beautiful place like this. I was swimming with Alan Nash, the owner of El Galleon Resort, Puerto Galera, and I saw this and dipped down to 80, 90 feet because I saw colorful creatures in a nice background where I could shoot up. I composed a picture. I didn't just push the button. I composed a photograph. Same. These mantas, if you haven't done it, this Sea of Cortez trip, you just go down to Los Cabos in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, and you go on a 10-night sail that gives you about 6.5 days of diving, because it's only 200 miles out to sea to get, but this is the first dive that you do. This place called the Boiler is absolutely a brilliant place to make pictures. If you haven't done Sea of Cortez on a liveaboard, I put it on your list. Or Socorro. Look at the motion here. This diver is sinking down on top. I probably could have done a little bit better lighting the manta ray, but the motion in this picture is what attracts me. Here's motion, but he's going the wrong way. We got him coming and going, but you get the idea. Okay, how do we tell a story? How do we tell a story with still photographs? Your HUF contest now, people are telling a much more complex story with motion picture, with music, with voiceovers. I'm trying to tell a story with a single image. Okay, that's a pretty easy one. I got a diver into the picture. Here we are looking at a beautiful balled up anemone with some pretty little false clownfish in it. That just tells you what it's like to be a diver, to be there on the reef. The story here is that the diver didn't know that all of these squid were shadowing him from above. Didn't even know they were there. What's the story here? These tiny little fish are living inside the urchin, sheltering themselves in there. What's the story here? What a cleaner fish. What is a cleaner fish? What does it accomplish? Again, eye contact from both animals, upward angles. The fish is set in a way it's moving towards me. It's not flat. I'm not shooting it flat. I'm adding components of composition to help tell a story. The cleaner fish, once again. Every once in a while they come. I had just one day when all the fish were yelling at me, and I made the very best of it that I could. What's the story here? Life upon life upon life. I spent a lot of time taking this picture, and afterwards people came and said, Ken, why do you take so many pictures of that one nudibranch? They didn't even see that the little emperor shrimp was on it, right? You got to get close, look close, and then do the best you can to compose. I still got a diagonal working in here, or two diagonals really, right? Because the shrimp is counteracting it the both way. We got a lot of motion in here with an appealing background that lets the foreground stand out. What's the story here? You know what nudibranchs eat? It's that little hydroid speckly stuff in front of it. It's about to go down and chow on that stuff. How do you get an upward angle? Right? You look for places where you can. So if they're just on the bottom, you're out of luck, right? Maybe you can get down to eye level if you could figure out where the eye is. But here, this guy was up on a little bit of a coral ridge, and I could sink down and literally shoot up on a nudie. To me, this is what I'm looking for. We're going to get to it as well, but this picture, consider the negative space, the background, and the contrasting colors that really let this be, to me, a successful photograph, right? We got motion, we got the curve, we got that beautiful yellow and red, the black behind the head of the animal, so it really stands out. This is what I'm attempting to do, but this is not a snapshot. This is a composition. What's the story here? Those are eggs in the front, right? This clownfish is tending its eggs, and they'll run off anybody. What's the story here? Once again, jawfish tending the eggs. I'll tell you the truth, in this picture, I remember making it when I took the photograph, I did not know that the baby crab was in there until I opened it up later to look at the image, because the porcelain crab is wide. So that little guy is, I got lucky. So luck comes into play, right? But we want to make the most of our luck. Let's talk now about negative space. I have some, I have a whole career and another career. I was playing drums for belly dancers in River Oaks Country Club last week in River Oaks Country Club. Imagine, this was as fun as it gets for me. But I went out and visited my friends at the Renaissance Festival. We're dressed in our gypsy finery, me and Eva, and we're walking around looking great. And all our friends call, I want to take your picture. They send me the picture, and there's like a garbage can back behind us in the picture. Well, like, thank you very much. That was not going on Facebook, is it? Right? Because he's not looking at negative space. I talk about belly dancers, half the pictures they take, they're just looking at their boobs and nothing else. So the rest of the composition goes completely out the window because they're not looking at the big picture. Negative space should be considered and controlled. Sometimes I will find an appealing negative space and then look for a subject that will fit with it. Like, because a good subject with crappy negative space is not going to be a great photograph. So there are two aspects, the foreground subject and the negative space really have to be considered as a unit. Okay, difference between a good one and a great one is negative space. Look, think about what's behind your subject. If there's a trash can, move over 30 degrees and put a pretty tree back there or something, or a belly dancer behind. That would be fine. How do we do this? By adjusting, moving the camera. We are movable. Sometimes the subject is not. We can't direct the fish where we want them. We can't tell the pretty part of the coral reef where to go. We move ourselves to better highlight the primary subject. Okay, I have two examples. Now, this was quite a remarkable thing. Again, Lorenz met her Wakatobi. This is in the early days. He had found this as a little Lamangao pipefish, right? It is like a thread with a couple of little bumps on it. Super tiny animal. This is a film shot, and Lorenz takes me to this thing that he has found himself. This guy's a brilliant, brilliant diver and a naturalist. This is the founder of Wakatobi again. Fortunate to be a dive buddy of mine, and he shows me this animal, and I'm shooting probably a, I don't know, shooting a film camera, right? And I figured, well, I guess I better get this right if he's going to take me to show me this amazing new thing. Here's one picture. That's not a very good picture. This is a much better picture of the very same animal in the very same shoot. What's the difference? The background. The negative space is the background. How did I move the negative space? I moved me, and fortunately, I waited until the creature moved itself in a place where I could make a more effective photograph. If you can put red or yellow in the background of something that's white or dark, all the better. The eye is in focus. We got a little bit of angle in there. To me, this was a successful shot when the slides came back. Okay, so again, I am looking for contrasting colors to use. Red, orange, yellow, these are action colors. They're used in advertising. They're used in every aspect. Then I find a primary subject that go with those colors. So this is a very mundane little creature, doesn't move around too much, doesn't do much, but look at what we accomplished by putting it on a red piece of sponge with beautiful blue behind it. Now we've got an interesting picture. We almost have motion, and we've got a bonus points because there's some kind of little other creatures living on the back of this thing, and they turned out to be orange. How wonderful. We composed a photograph. Here's as simple a shot as you can get, right? This doesn't run away. But what made it work, okay, we're fortunate that the sea star is, or the starfish is orange, but the background is complementary to it, is contrasting to it, that lets this little animal stand out. I'm even composing a picture here. I'm not shooting it flat and straight, right? Look how I moved a little bit, that this guy has got something going on. He has motion, even though it is a still picture. The background helps this as much. It's a fairly mundane primary subject, but look at the background. Look how it's all pointing to him. Look at the colors that we have, the blue, the green, the red. This makes a photograph. Simple, simple. We have something bright You can shoot it against a very mundane background because it stands out. Shooting against sand, by the way, is a very challenging thing. This is when you want to think in advance. You got to dial back. You got to dial back because sand will just blow out, right? So now I'm adjusting my aperture down because I'm thinking in advance. And I stop and take this thought. You want to get to a point when you see a photo subject 30 feet in front of you and you are slowly and carefully approaching it so as not to startle it. I'm assessing the aspects of exposure along the way. Sometimes you only get one shot, right? If it's a skittish kind of an animal, you might only get one opportunity. So you want to get that one right. So from 40 plus years of experience, I know if I'm shooting against sand, it's one thing. If I'm shooting against dark water, it's another thing. If I'm shooting a very reflective subject, say like jacks or something like that, they're going to be very bright. So I'm going to dial down. If I'm shooting something dark like a shark, I'm going to open up because it's going to suck up all the light I can give. And again, in my aspect of manual photography, almost everything is static in my setup. My shutter speed, I rarely have to mess with. The strobes, I rarely mess with other than maybe positioning, but I'm not changing their power. Aperture is the final part of the picture for me. And as I'm coming into a subject like this, I'm thinking, okay, where do I want this to be? Because when we shot film, we didn't have a choice. We didn't know. Now, if you're shooting digital, great. Shoot one and look. If it's an animal that's not going to wait, look, okay, what do I need to do? I need to open up. I need more light. I need less light. Hey, if I move over here, I'll get a better angle. You don't have to shoot 20 of the same animal, right? This is, again, hearkening back to film. I was fortunate to get to shoot with James Watt, probably in the top 5 wildlife photographers in the world. And he would just agonize in film days over fire control. If I see a good subject, do I take 3? Do I take 4? What if I find something better later? He would agonize over it. So now you can shoot 801 pictures of the same thing and post them all to Facebook, but I'm not recommending that, right? I'm saying you want to, if you're not getting the picture in 3 or 4 shots, you're not getting the picture here. You're missing part of the concept. Look how the background makes this little animal. Now, these are glorious little guys. This is a tiny thing, maybe an inch or 2 long. You got to chase them around because they don't want their picture taken. But when you finally get them with red behind them, okay, I'll take that. How about this? Usually with a leaf scorpion like this, everybody gets close. They're shooting it very flat once again, right? They're beautiful animals. But I saw this lovely pink sponge. Is that pink? Maybe a purpley kind of a color. I backed up because I wanted to add that into my composition. I didn't just take a picture of the fish full frame. I moved back that I could have both blue water and all of these beautiful contrasting colors. To me, this makes a more artistic and interesting photograph that tells a story about being in that place at that moment. This guy, I probably spent 20 minutes every time I see one of these guys. I'll spend 15, 20 minutes getting close enough to make the picture. They don't want their picture taken, but if you go slow and easy and don't startle them, you finally get into position. I got the angle, I got my rule of thirds, I got the eye in focus, I have a beautiful contrasting background. I have composed what to me is a pleasing image. I said never shoot down, but this is the 2% when you do, right? There's no other way to show this animal, but also look at it against the black volcanic sand, how well that works. If that was against white sand, it probably wouldn't be as good a photograph. Simple, simple, simple. Blue water, orange background, pretty little fish at an angle, everybody in focus, making eye contact. One strobe, because you can see where the shadow is. I have composed a photograph that makes me happy. How about this? Here's an animal to practice on, right? Again, it can't run away, but it was in the right place. And I thought about it. How do I make it like it's leaping through the photograph, right? I have this beautiful red background. If I saw this very same thing just against that bland coral, I wouldn't even bother wasting one of my 801 pictures on it. But here, because of all the aspects coming together, I make an interesting photograph. Avoid distracting foreground elements. Now, this is something I see in my judging of our contests again. If you can have a really wonderful picture and all the other aspects, but there's a blob out of focus in the front, that's not going to help you. So what do? You move the photographer and the camera to a place where that is not distracting. Can use depth of field to control negative space. Depth of field is purely controlled by aperture in your lens, right? If you want just the subject and everything else to be out of focus by intent, this bokeh that we discussed, then we're going to use a wider aperture. If you want everything sharp, you use a smaller aperture and adjust accordingly. Soft out of focus background can be used to call attention to your subject. Here's what I mean. Just the snake and the eye and the background doesn't have to be in focus at all. It works better because it is not. Same. That background actually washes out into something quite interesting. Same here, beautiful foreground subject. The background, it doesn't matter that it's out of focus or soft focus, but it is a beautiful contrasting color. Same. These little guys are a bugger too. They do not stay in one place. You spend some time getting a composition out of that. Okay, balance ambient light to put blue water in your images. And to me, literally, this is underwater photography. Let's show people we're in the water. Let's show what the ocean, the beautiful blue of the ocean is what speaks to us. Put it into your picture. Again, an example, against black, against blue. This is the same shoot, the same fish. So what did I do? I came in, I shot it once, I said, uh-oh, well, I'm shooting down for starters, Kenny, that doesn't work very good. And I probably need a little, open my aperture a little bit. Same animal, boom, the background pops, everything. To me, this is an effective shot. Now, he may be a little bit too much in the middle of the picture, right? We could crop a little differently, but I got the angle, I got the eye, I got the blue water, I have a wonderful red contrasting color. I'm going to be happy with that picture. This is a specific anemone that I've returned to in multiple years because I know it's red. And by the way, if you shoot anemone fish and anemones, when you come up to them, just looking at them without light, they all look like a mustardy green, right? They look like nothing. Well, guess what? Some of them light up red and some of them don't. Flash once or put your light on them and find out the red ones. Ignore the other ones. They're no fun compared to this. And only 1 in 5 or 10 lights up like this, right? A lot of them are just kind of green and blah. But this, I know where this anemone is. It's in a place where I can shoot straight up and get blue. It's got these beautiful little clownfish in it. I'm going to sit around here and compose a pleasing photograph. Shooting up. This is shooting almost straight up in this case. It's a pretty mundane fish, right, by our standards. It's, you know, kind of boring in color, but we had some really interesting contrasting colors that make it a worthy image. I think this was shooting straight up once again. And this whole aspect of blue, I learned this from Jim Watt. He taught me this trick, and it's something that I have pursued for another couple of decades. If you can put blue water with a nudibranch, you're getting something going on. And you have to look for places where this is possible. Again, a nudibranch on the bottom is not going to enable this. This was on a coral sticking out from a ridge where I could get below and shoot up. I moved back a little bit, right? It's not super tight on the nudibranch. I did it where there's an angle. The nudibranch has motion in it. And look at these beautiful contrasting colors. composing a photograph. I don't take pictures of pygmies anymore. I feel bad for them. I don't like to disturb them. So I just might go and look at them and say hi, but I don't want to muck with them anymore. Here's another one aspect. I try to include this in any of my photo presentations. What's the biggest impediment to making underwater photos? What do you think? The photographer? The photographer is a close second. The water. This is a critical thing to understand. The more water between you and your subject, the poorer the image is going to be. Because not all water is gin clear, right? Maybe some places you'll get great visibility and you can back off a little bit, but water is an impediment to your picture. The closer you can be to your subject, and this is where wide angle lenses come into play, right? Especially in settings like this, the closer you are, the more color and clarity you are going to have. Get close to your subject in almost all cases, right? Now, we don't lose the thought of composition. We're not just trying to smack everything tight inside the frame, but the less water between you and your subject, the better your picture is going to be. Okay, this is almost another of the most important topics. It takes a long time to learn. You have to understand the animals that you're shooting, and this just takes time. If I see a particular kind of lizard fish, I know pretty much how close that animal's going to let me get before it darts away. And this is a function of that animal, how fast he can move compared to his predators, right? They all have this wired into their tiny little fish brains, and they know when to say, uh-oh, and go. So I'm learning these things. I'm learning how close I can get before I shoot the first time. Sometimes when that flash goes off, boom, that animal is gone, right? So I want to be close enough in the right place, composition, everything. I might only get one try. But part of it is understanding the animal. I know how close I can get. Approaching slowly and obliquely. Take your time. If you see something beautiful, everything else is there. I told you, some of the images I've just showed you, I spent 15, 20 minutes approaching the animal before I ever shot. Getting close enough where it finally realized, well, that big ugly thing with one giant eye and two more huge light eyes is not going to eat me. Minimize your eye contact with this subject. I told you, if you have a school of fish with 50 fish, every one of them is focused on you. Do we need to run? Is he going to eat us? Is that guy a threat? So don't make eye contact until you have to, especially when you are approaching the animal. Do not make eye contact. Let him think you don't see him. He says, I'm camouflaged, I'm camouflaged. Uh-oh, he looked at me, right? I've been chasing a tiny little blue-ringed octopus. You know, they're really no bigger than a quarter, maybe, right, a US quarter. And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and he's sitting there, and I look away to look at my camera. I look back, that little bugger is gone. Because he was watching me, and he knew when I was, and he goes and finds a new hiding place. Have you seen this happen? It's amazing. This is life. This is wildlife. This is what we're trying to understand in order to accomplish a photograph without damaging the reef or the marine life. Make your own luck. Practice. Learn from your previous experiences. Again, with film, this was a tough game. You could go off, shoot 40 rolls, come back, and they're all crap because you didn't have your settings right. Now, and I would say, don't just learn from what you see in the back of your camera through the housing. That first day, especially, download those images and look them over carefully. See what's working, what's not working, what needs adjusting. If everything is out of focus, it's not your autofocus broken, it's not your lens broken, it's motion blur. I need to shoot a little bit faster to avoid that. If everything is dark, I need more light. If your strobe is in the picture, right, in part of the image, okay, I need to back off. So especially that first day, really look at this stuff. This is the gorgeous aspect of digital above all, is that we have instant feedback, right? We're considering all aspects to compose a picture. And we are moving the camera, we're moving the photographer. We don't have control of much else. Stop, think, then shoot. Blue water, I love it. There's my little lizardfish we were discussing, where I know just how close I can get and how to approach him before he chases away. Look at the beauty. I'm going to look at the anemone. If I have a pretty fish like this in a boring anemone, I'm going to keep swimming and find something better, because the beauty of this foreground anemone adds to the picture, the contrasting colors. Make eye contact with your subject. Take a minute and read this. When Burt Jones wrote this, we were only shooting film. I added the pixel part in myself. This is a tool of creativity. Show vision. Don't just, okay, here's the tail of a fish. Wow, that was a really nice fish. I wish you could have seen the other fish, but it swam away. This is a tool, a beautiful tool, and something that gives us great joy. You know, most of you are not trying to sell your photographs or promote a business. You're trying to have fun, make beautiful images, and make memories that last a lifetime. A lot of the pictures that I showed you in this presentation, I remember the very moment I pushed the shutter. I remember being there in that place, finding that animal, how I adjusted myself to make a picture. And there you have it. That's me. And Island Dreams is now just a concept. This was my company. I had more than 40 years in the dive travel business. I had an amazing time that I was shuttling between scuba diving and belly dancing. I don't know how this happened, but it was good. I retired at the end of this last year. Retirement has been very busy for me so far, but I'm pointing this out for all of HUPS. If you send something to ken@divetrip.com, I'm not going to see it, and I won't know I was supposed to be here today. So Ken Knezick at yahoo.com. I hope this was a helpful presentation for you. Are there any questions? Thank you much. Yes, sir.
What about shutter speed and f-stop?
Yeah.
So you didn't mention.
Okay, that's a very, very good consideration. Most of the time, I am shooting a fixed ISO, 200, 300, 400, based on how much light is in the water column. I'd like to be 200 as much as possible. I told you I'm shooting an older iteration camera. It doesn't push very well, right? The faster ISO, I'm already losing quality no matter what else I'm doing. So most of the time, fixed ISO 2, 3, 400. If I'm in a dark area, if I'm shooting sharks, something like that, maybe I'll open up to 400. The exception, and this is a trick I learned, this is Doug Perrine by the way of Jesse Conselmo. Jesse was shooting the sail fin in Isla Mujeres with Doug Perrine. This is when we're using a floating or auto ISO, because you're shooting animals that are moving, right? Or say a big school of fish with sea lions diving through it, right? Or even maybe those manta shots, not so much, that's more static lighting. But when the lighting is changing and you're moving, you get all the rest of your settings correct, and then you let the camera adjust the ISO. Now you're trusting the camera to get your exposure right, but it works. So something like a sailfish who's moving and now he's in the sun, and now he's over here in the blue with the sun behind you, that's when you let the ISO float or be auto. But most of the time, because especially in a camera like mine, if it floats too far to the high side, I'm not going to get a good image no matter how hard I try. I'm going to shoot a fixed ISO in most cases, certainly in any macro, anything like that, fixed. Any fish photography, fixed. But in blue water, if I think I got manta rays, I got whale shark, anything like that, that's when I'm going to think about an auto ISO. Does that speak to your question?
Yes, except your caveat there is you shoot with camera. A lot of the new cameras, they really don't care.
Well, they care at some point.
At some point, but definitely not 2, 3, 4, 500.
Yeah, my camera at past 800, I'm not happy with what I'm getting. So I've had to adjust to that. And any of these, even if you set an auto ISO, you can set a top and a bottom limit to it. It doesn't have to go to 128,000 when some of the new cameras do. By the way, I just bought a little, what is it? A Pentax Panasonic Lumix, kind of a little point and shooty kind of a camera. And it now has an IA setting, intelligent auto. And it looks at the picture for you and it says, oh, this is a macro picture. Oh, this is a flower. Oh, wait, this is a portrait. Oh, wait, this is a scenic shot. It's adjusting all of these aspects now, right? If you're trusting the camera to be completely automatic. Now, in my experience in underwater photography, which goes back to the ancient days, you couldn't trust auto anything, right? Now, even your camera, I don't see the reason to always leave auto ISO unless there's a reason for it. Because I guarantee, well, you should do some test pictures. Shoot it at 200 and shoot it at 6400 ISO and see if there's a difference in image quality. I think there has to be. I think, but I'm not an expert in that at all. I'm old school. And there's a difference or there's not? Thank you very much. But then again, you put it in Topaz AI and it'll fix all of that. Yes. Huh? Well, can't fix everything, but.
Okay, new subject. I like you blue. I'm a blue guy as well. I guess you're not a snoot person, huh?
Say?
You're not a snoot person?
I'm not hearing you properly.
Snoot. Hey, snoot.
No, I leave that to all the hot shots. No, I've never bothered to snoot. There's plenty of things I haven't done in my life that I'll probably catch up on now that I'm retired. I don't snoot because to me, it's taking away the ocean. It's taking away the background. It's taking away the parts of the image that I enjoy. Now, other people, maybe they're trying to accomplish something different. Every once in a while, I follow Mike Bartik. Many of you probably do. The guy from Crystal Blue over in Anilau. He's a brilliant photographer. He's also one of the very forerunners of the Blackwater photography. He likes to snoot, and I look at everything he puts up in 1 and 5. I'll say, yeah, that was really worth it. So occasionally, yes, it's one more tool in your kit. Right? There's a time when that's going to make a lot of sense. But if you snoot everything, I think that would get as boring as the guy who posted 801 pictures of dragon boats.
I'm seriously trying to ask that question because this is a real big deal now. I mean, I'm seeing several people right now on Facebook coming back from, Anilau and all this. The people are going out, the dive masters are going out, teaching them how to snoot, and that's the only thing they're doing.
Yeah.
And they lose everything on that shot except for the little thing that's right there. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what's wrong with the rest of it?
The contrasting colors are gone, all the beauty. See, I'm trying to create beauty. I call it art. I'm trying to create beauty because that's what I see when I'm in the ocean. These colors, this life, this swirling activity around me. This is the joy. That's what I'm trying to portray. Other people have a different artistic vision. That's great. Look, a lot of times with the snoot business, it takes 2 people just to do it, right? Now you've got a guide coming along snooting for you or whatever the hell they're doing. Fine. Me, look, the way I dive in my pictures, everybody goes that way. I'm going to go this way. If I have a buddy, that's their fault, not mine. Right? If my wife is a buddy, other than that, I'm on my own. I'm going to go off and make my pictures. If it takes 2 people to get in there and you're struggling all over this, God bless, have fun. whatever. This is an art. Art has so many different, look, some people looked at Picasso and what the heck was he drinking, right? I think it was absinthe. But, they don't understand that. Decades later, maybe we do. We got Jackson Pollock, and then we have strict scenic, portraiture that's exquisite as well. So it's art. It's different ways of viewing the ocean. But what do you see when you go in the water? That's what you want to share. That's what I'm trying to share. But really great questions. And you're right. I ignore many aspects of these things because to me, I don't care. Video, I don't care. I don't want to shoot video. I'm still focused in this old-fashioned world of still photography, which also requires a fair amount less post-production work. I don't think I'm patient enough to bother to put together a 5-minute video, but I'll put together a show for you and have fun. But this is just me. I'm old school at this point, right? I completely accept and realize that. I really admire what some of the younger photographers are doing and accomplishing. There'll be more. I imagine there'll be more things to come along. Great questions. Thank you very much. Anything else? Okay, the last thing I want to impart to you is simply the joy of this sport, right? The joy of diving itself, being in the water. What an amazing thing. You remember our first dives, much less, the thousands and the memories that we have created over that time. And then if you take that joy and try to capture it in a beautiful video or in a still photograph, whether you're trying to make the next Chris Newbert book, or you're just trying to impress your friends or make images for yourself and memories, enjoy it. Have a wonderful time. I hope this has helped you. And I know HUPS has helped me over the decades, so I'm happy to be here and do the same. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I didn't need you.
And let's hope you didn't give up belly dancing,
No, I told you, River Oaks Country
Okay,
Club
I thought
last
you
week.
said it
Go
was
figure.
recently.
Go
Retirement,
figure.
shouldn't be retiring from everything. You know?
No, no, I'm not retired from life. I'm busier than
Yeah.
ever.
What a great ton of advice. It's nice we record these things because it'll be out there on the channel for people to watch and go back, because a lot of it went by really fast. And I think, it's a good thing to maybe watch again and take
Well,
notes.
I've been praised for my verbosity, which means I talk too much. So I came here consciously. Let's go fast, Kenny. Let's try to go through this.
The ISO question is so great. And I would just say to everybody, read your manual, because things change over time.
Yep.
It used to be you wouldn't go past 100,
Yeah.
Well, and now
Yeah.
that's not even a natural ISO for a lot of cameras. They have what they call an extended ISO to get from 200 down to 100. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but and then this new camera that we just got has its natural ISO is 400 now. So that's kind of interesting.
It is.
Yeah. So.
Well, they just keep improving the tool.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Look, I started out with a little digital camera. Me and Jim Watt gave me this Olympus 3020, and you could get 16 pictures on the card, 16 pictures. And he came with me to Wakatobi, and I knew Wakatobi. So he says, here, somebody gave me this thing. Go see what it does. He hadn't even shot it yet. So I went out and I made 16 pictures. And when I saw I could make a better one, I deleted the last one, deleted one, and I could make one more. And I spent like an hour and a half, 2 hours, on a reef dive, beach dive. And I brought back and I gave it to him and I showed him. He says, well, give me that. And he didn't let me touch it for 3 more days until he made better pictures. This was the other aspect of working for the professional. They're not going to let you get one up on them.
Yeah.
But literally 16 pictures, simple little thing. They were 640 by 480, right?
Yeah,
Tiny
yeah,
little
yeah.
dimension here. Look what we have now.
Yeah.
It's glorious.
Yeah.
What is that, in 20 years? And people back then, I came here and did a presentation on digital photography when people were saying it'll never catch on. No way. People I'd go to Beneath the Sea in New York and scoffing at me. That's never going to work. Unfortunately, that's what Kodak thought too. And look where they are. They're gone.
Yeah, you got to know.
Brilliant. We're living in a glorious time.
So it's really amazing the features that are on the cameras now, the AI built into them, and
Yep.
so one of the things we're at least talking about is, and actually today I should be able to start finding out if we won this project. It was about producing collaborative artwork. So, you know, for example, belly dancing is a collaborative thing. You've got dancers, you've got musicians, and so on. We're like Lone Rangers, right? We go out and jump in the water, and like you said, in fact, if there's any son of a gun around me, I'm going to go somewhere else, right? But that's not the way photographers work on land, and that's not the way videographers work on land either. You know, I mean, think about the way a professional film crew works, for example. You know what they do? They go in and they decide how they want the scene to look first, right? And then they choose the lighting based on that. So they've got a certain lighting they want. And then they'll go and adjust the lens by adding ND filters if they need to cut the lighting back or whatever it is. But they start out with that image to begin with. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'll jump in the water looking for something to shoot, you know?
Well, and those people spend 2 days to make 3 minutes of that film.
Exactly.
That's how
So, I
it's-
mean, we could
it's-
go a little
it's
bit
an
more
art.
in their direction, actually. And so we have a project we've applied for, which is to make a collaborative photographic or videographic
Wow.
thing. And we'll see if we get the project or not. It's something that the Match Theater is doing, and because of our connection of having our HUPS performances there. So I took an afternoon and wrote up a proposal, and you know, they're supposed to start voting on it really soon, and we should find out. So if we get it, it's like one of those things like the dog that caught the milk truck. You know? I don't know what we're going to do with it exactly if we get it. But just talking about it, I've gotten all these emails from people that sat there quietly like everyone else, and then suddenly the emails start pinging in. Hey, we could do this, or we could do this if we got our act together and put our lights together, let's say, and, you know, worked on a kind of photograph we might take that we couldn't take by ourselves. So it'll be a challenge for us because we're all going out there trying to get photographs and video. And so I think our main challenge is not going to be for ideas, but finding are people really willing to give up part of a dive where they're not shooting their own stuff to go and do some, you know, artsy fartsy collaborative thing. We'll see how it works out. We may not, we're lucky we won't get it. So
And I want to step back just
please.
to make one little point that underwater photography in the ocean with water is a completely different story than anything above water, right? It's a completely different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
That's why we're shooting. If I'm shooting topside mode, okay, I'll put it on IA and see what the camera thinks. It's probably smarter than me, right? But underwater, maybe that's changed. But for a long time underwater, none of that worked, right? It just didn't work. And that's why the true professionals were shooting manual right along and learning how to make it work. But topside, yeah, it's completely different. But that's the joy of underwater photography is we've added to the challenge. We're trying not to drown and then create art,
First,
right?
Yeah, should be first. Although I've challenged that a few times, you know. This picture's worth dying for, you know.
Well, some people have.
Oh, you know, I'd take us right down, Ken. Thank you.
A pleasure. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks. And I think that concludes the meeting. We don't have a photo contest tonight, so we're going to get out a little bit early, and we go down to La Tapatia, which is at 5710 Bel Air. So there's several ways to go to that. You can go over. I always just go out of the thing and head over on Voss over to Bel Air and go down to Voss and on Bel Air to almost to Chimney Rock. It's not quite to Chimney Rock. Or you can go down to Chimney Rock, take a left. And, yeah, who's going to dinner tonight? Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8. We got about 9 or so, 9 or 10. Okay. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you at the Huff next weekend.